Okay, it's time to finally button up this back end of the MG. G'day guys, and welcome back to MG Rebuild. As I said, I'm actually going to be buttoning up the back end. I did get some parts throughout the week. This is one of the main ones I've been waiting for. Funny thing is, I actually found the original one a couple of days ago, but it was in pretty bad condition, so I still needed it anyway. So, yep, the fuel tank will be going back in, along with the spare wheel and the rear splash guard or the valance. So, as you know in a previous video, with the fuel tank, I've cleaned it all out with acid, and then put a sealing kit in there. So, some people say the sealing kits are bad news, because the ethanol fuel will affect it and make it go all like a goo. This one is actually safe for ethanol fuel. It will not attack it. It's actually like a ceramic type of finish, and it is very hard. It can actually block up holes as big as, perhaps about that size, I believe. If you actually put tape over the hole and put the stuff in there, it will actually block that hole up completely. So you've got to be very careful when you do it, not to actually block up your drain plugs and your outlet holes. Anyway. So, I've done that. I've also tested out the actual float, make sure it actually does have a signal coming from it. So when it drops down, it will actually, the little green light on the dash will come on and let me know there's only about 2 gallons of fuel left. So, I think it's 2 or 2.5 gallons, so around about 10 litres anyway. So at the moment, we're just cleaning up the surfaces for that. We're going to put on the new gaskets, the new rubber gaskets I got, along with some Permatex gasket dressing and sealant, fuel resistant, just to make sure it doesn't leak. Now, with the actual the fuel gauge, it's usually these little brass screws that hold it on there. The 6 of them that go around the perimeter. The only problem is if you actually do have a leak there, you've got to take the whole fuel tank out to replace it or to fix the leak or whatever it might be. So I'm putting in Allen head bolts. That way you can still reach it from under the car and get them all out and do your repairs, fix up your leak or whatever it might be. So that's a bit of a handy little tip there for that one. So what I've done, I've cleaned all the threads, and I've cleaned the threads around the actual fuel tank sender as well. So let's start by putting the new gasket on the actual face of that, and we'll put that inside the fuel tank. So we start off by putting a bit of this sealant around the perimeter. Okay, I actually had the plate around the wrong way. I had this little marking of top on there, and I had it on the bottom, so once again, something else I've got wrong. And we'll just nip them up for now, so it's nice and even pressure. Can't over tighten these because they're brass screws. Don't want to strip it. But also don't want it to leak. Okay. Now for the gasket around the actual sender itself. Once again, more gasket goo. Now this gasket stuff doesn't actually go hard. It remains pliable. I wouldn't say it remains runny or anything like that. It does set up a little bit, but it makes it so you can take the gasket off without destroying it. And hopefully don't get it everywhere like I just did. Now, these used to originally come out with a cork gasket, but apparently they had a lot of troubles with them leaking, so I think that's why they've gone to this rubberized type now. So hopefully, shouldn't have any issues. Puts a bit of this goo around the threads of the screws, just so it doesn't actually, the fuel doesn't actually wick along the threads and create a leak. Remember to always tighten in a cross pattern or a diagonal pattern. Okay, now as you can see, I've just put in well, I'm not sure what to call it. Not the drain, that's the drain plug there, that's the actual feed to the fuel line. I did take this back off. What was happening with that gasket goo I was putting on there, it was making it a little bit slippery and it was pushing the gasket out. It was sort of distorting it, so it would have ended up leaking. So what I did, I took it back off. I cleaned all the gasket goo off, put it back on with no sealant, and still sealed up the actual Allen bolts, and then also put a spring washer under them as well. So it doesn't actually have to be quite as tight, but it should still hold anyway. So next thing is to hopefully get it ready to go in the car. So let's have a look. Now these rubber strips are very hard to get them to stay in place, so I'll put some double-sided tape on there. Okay, I'll put on some double-sided tape to hold the rubber strip in place while it gets put in up with the tank. It's not going to hold it all that well, but it'll hold it enough to get it in place. Okay, we've got the rubber mats in place there on the chassis, and of course the uprights have also got their little rubbers on there as well. Make sure it's centered. It's got to come that way a bit.
Looks like it slid down a bit.
Yep, that's fine. And that didn't work at all.
It's unhooked at the bottom.
Right here. Now, one of the things with the MG is the actual bolts coming through the front, and you've got to paint them the same colour as the interior, which I've done. It's a pretty close match, so it's not too bad. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Although the hole is very tight. Got it. Okay, today's another day. When I was hitting that bolt through from the interior, it was a little bit tight, and what it actually, one of the threads had managed to take out a massive big chip of paint in the back of the back there, so I had to touch it up yesterday. Now it's all dry. I've now mounted it properly. It's all nice and tight. I've even put some fuel in there. Now this is only a temporary fuel cap at the moment. I'm still waiting for mine to arrive, even though I ordered it back in December. That parcel's lost. I don't know where it is. So that's half full of fuel. We've wired up the sensor, and there is absolutely no leaks whatsoever. There's no weeping. There is nothing. Now, this fuel tank had a lot of pinholes through the bottom of it. The previous owner had fiberglassed all that, and yes, that would have worked, but I stripped all that fiberglass back off and then done that fuel petrol tank sealant kit, and that has stopped every single leak. There's bone dry. It's lovely. So, what I'm going to do now is put on the rear splash guard. Now the wires, I still need to do some more wiring and so forth, but I'm just keen to get this on. Now, there's a little bit of paint in the actual thread, so I may need to clean those threads out first, I think, if they're not wanting to really start. So I'll do that off camera, just to make sure they're all nice and clean. Okay, just before I put the valance back on, just a quick question with this wiring. It's, as you can see, I've got the wire that goes through to the number plate light, coming down underneath the fuel tank and up to the fuel sender, and then that, I presume that gets clamped there. Can someone just confirm that with me that I've got it right? It just seems a little bit obscure to have it hanging down like that. It doesn't seem 100% correct. It might be fine, I don't know. But I just want to make sure before I bolt everything up. Like I said, I'm going to put the valance on, but I will be taking it back off. I just want to put it on there just for looks, really, to see what it's actually going to look like. And then put the spare wheel on as well, so I can say, look, the back end's almost finished. Anyway, time to put it on.
Ow.
I'll get a screwdriver into him.
Why is there weights on the bottom of here?
Hmm?
There's weights on here.
Right, I'll put him there. Okay, as you see, the hubcap is now on the spare wheel. I've also got one of the tank sides on now as well. The actual bolts, there's little chrome bolts here. I had to re-tap them. They wouldn't fit in the actual holes. So that was a bit of a pain in the bum. This panel down here is a very tight fit. Trying to get the camera there. You can see it's going to touch and rub and knock some paint off, no doubt, over time. This side panel here, the fuel tank, is touching the back of the body tub, so I'm going to have to just pull it out slightly, because that's also stopping the side panel going on as well. So that's something I'll do during the week, I reckon, or next weekend, just so we can get things moving. So that's the end of another episode. So if you like my videos, please subscribe to the channel and click that notification button. Of course, send me some comments, especially about that wiring setup on the back of the TDs. Make sure I've got it in the right spot. So next episode, I'll actually be start building the seats, the seat bases. Mine were a mismatched pair and full of rat and mouse crap, and pretty rotted and falling apart. So I'm going to have to build a new set from scratch. So until next time, I'll catch you later.